All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video on the Niners' newest undrafted running back, and that is Cody Schrader of Missouri. We'll talk about him. Matt Barrows had a great piece in The Athletic on him. We'll talk a little bit about Cody Schrader coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And this video is brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove along the Monterey Peninsula. Call Anthony Catania at 821 or 831-521. Once again, 831-521-5264. Anthony Catania and the good people at Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Cody Schrader. I'm really excited about Cody Schrader. Saw this guy in the SEC, and, it's like when you watch this guy one time, you're not that impressed. He's not that big. He's not that fast. He's just not that impressive. But then when you learn his story and watch him work and see how tough he is and see how driven he is, you can see that, man, this is a special player. One of my favorite running backs in this draft was Blake Corum from the University of Michigan, who was 5'8", 210 pounds or so, and just a really solid running back at that size. And I really liked Blake Corum. And yet when I watch Cody Schrader, in a lot of ways, I see a lot of the exact same things, almost the exact same size, 5'8", about 210, 215 pounds. And just, there's running back is one of those spots where your heart means as much as your speed. There were bigger and faster running backs coming out of college than Emmitt Smith, but man, Emmitt was a leader. And you could feel the will of Emmitt Smith. And you can kind of sense that with Cody Schrader. He's got this tremendous will. He's got this tremendous work ethic. He's got this tremendous drive and this determination that is just off the charts. And so you watch him once and you're like, not that impressed. You watch him 3, 4, 5, 6 times. You're like, wow, this guy's special. Great story in The Athletic by Matt Barrows on Cody Schrader. And he outlines how in 2017, he's playing high school football. He had pain in his chest, and, he still played a game. And then after the game, he's like, I'm still having pain. They went and did x-rays, realized he had played a game, an entire football game, playing both ways at linebacker and running back with a broken sternum, which has to be one of the most painful injuries in a sport where you're hitting with your chest all the time. And you're playing two spots where you're running into guys at linebacker and running back. And this guy played a game with a broken sternum. Not only that, he played both ways in this game, linebacker and running back, and the temperature was in the low 30s. So you're talking about a guy who's plenty tough. And, it's the guy only missed one game. It's funny. If you want to find out how much a guy loves a sport, just look at how many games he misses. This guy missed one game, and it was after they, did an x-ray, realized he had broken his sternum, and they held him out the next week, but he wanted to play and he kept asking if he could play. And that was the only game he missed in high school and college combined. So that tells me all I need to know about this kid's character and his toughness. He's 5'8", but he's got huge, huge determination. In high school, he was a very productive player. He ran for 6,759 yards and scored 111 touchdowns. And you would think when a guy rushes for 7,000 yards almost and scores over 100 touchdowns in his career, that there would have been schools left and right offering him deals, offering him scholarships. That wasn't the case. He had to go to Division II Truman State. And in 2021, he led the nation at Truman State with 2,074 rushing yards. So This guy was a great player in high school, got passed over for college, goes to Truman State and has another monster year. And then still the only FCS school to offer him a scholarship after he exploded at Truman State were the Southern Illinois Salukis. So he said, you know what? I don't want to play for the Salukis. And he decided to walk on at University of Missouri in 2022. I mean, you're trying to walk on at an SEC school. And then what happened? He wound up winning the job in 2022, having a great year, and then came back in 2023. And not only was he the best player on Missouri's team as far as running backs were concerned, he was the best running back in the entire SEC in a conference that had, you know, other big time backs. Tennessee had a big back. Alabama's got a couple good backs. Georgia had a couple good backs. And yet it was Cody Schrader at Missouri who led the SEC in 2023 with 1,627 rushing yards. And still, despite the fact he was great in high school and got passed over, and then was great at Truman State and still got no real looks outside of Southern Illinois, and then walked on at Missouri and led the Missouri Tigers led the SEC, and, you know, not just his team, led every team in the conference. And he had more rushing yards than any back in the SEC. He still doesn't get drafted. I mean, this guy was on the radar of scouts in the middle of the year. They knew that he was special. They knew that he had been this incredibly productive guy. They knew that he had been this walk-on, but he still wasn't drafted. He ran 4.61 in the 40, which is not great. He had 28.5-inch arms, which means he's got short arms, which, you know, to scouts, that tells them, man, he might not be much of a receiver, and he might not be a real dependable pass blocker because he's got short arms. But what he does have is he's got unbelievable vision. He's got elite vision, and he's got a crazy work ethic. And when you work that hard and you got great vision as a back, you know, those are things that even the playing field. This kid grew up in DeSoto, Missouri, 50 miles south of St. Louis. And, you know, he wound up playing hurt in college against LSU. LSU's got a good defense. What did he do against them that day? 114 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. The nice thing for the 49ers, he fits what they do. They run a zone scheme. He ran a zone scheme at Missouri. So when Bobby T saw, you know, that this kid ran, a zone scheme, he didn't have to sit there and go, I wonder how he'll project in our scheme. The Niners run an outside zone scheme. So I think he probably felt really comfortable with Schrader. And, you know, Bobby T is one of these guys that gets really involved with these prospects leading up to the draft, and he kind of puts them through the test. You know, he'll call you at all hours of the day and night, and he wants to see how responsive are you. Do you call him right back? Are you professional? You know, how professional are you in your dealings with you know, a guy who's going to be your position coach potentially? And he had a good feeling about Schrader, and sure enough, the Niners signed Schrader as an undrafted free agent after the draft. He hit it off in the draft process with Bobby T, and when he wasn't drafted, he decided to go where many running backs have gone and thrived, and that's as an undrafted running back or a late-round pick under Bobby T, who's done this, you know, in Denver with Mike Anderson, with Terrell Davis, with others in Washington, and is now doing it with the 49ers with guys like Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson and Elijah Mitchell and J.P. Mason. Bobby T's got a great eye for undrafted free agent running backs or late-round running backs, guys that fall through the cracks for whatever reason, but he sees value in. And the latest is Cody Schrader. The other thing that's really noteworthy about Schrader, he studies and has studied Christian McCaffrey in every move that he's made going back to Stanford. I mean, you know, Schrader claims that he idolizes CMC and that he, you know, has studied him, you know, immensely from everything he does, how he goes about running the outside zone scheme, his work ethic, tackle breaking ability, you know, footwork, everything. I mean, he has studied a guy that he's now going to back up in Christian McCaffrey. So he hit it off with Bobby T. He idolizes Christian McCaffrey. He didn't get drafted despite being arguably the most productive running back in the SEC. And now he's in camp with the 49ers. And we're going to find out this summer. And it's not like, oh, yeah, you know what? This guy's got a absolute, perfect shot to make the roster. He may not make it. The Niners keep 5 running backs. They've got Christian McCaffrey and Juice, and that means there's room for 3 other backs. And they've got Elijah Mitchell, and they got J.P. Mason, and they just drafted Isaac Guerendo in the 4th round. So there's 5 backs right there. And if you're going to make the team, you're probably going to have to be one of the best 5 backs. So how is Cody Schrader going to make it? I don't know. There may not be a route for him to make the roster. But the one thing that is clear is that this kid's got great vision, great work ethic. He's been doubted before. And it's almost like he wouldn't have it any other way. They doubted him in high school. He found his way to Truman State. They doubted him coming out of Truman State. He found his way to be a walk-on at Missouri. They doubted him at Missouri. All he did was lead the SEC in rushing. They doubted him in the draft, and the Niners signed him as an undrafted free agent. And this kid can play. So great piece by Barrows. I would encourage all of you to go read the story in The Athletic today from Matt Barrows on Cody Schrader. And if you're a 49er fan, man, get ready to watch, the preseason with some interest. More times than not, in workouts, these running backs don't show themselves. I mean, a really talented running back may not even shine in an OTA situation or drills or practice. You got to get in there with live bullets when everybody's playing live and full speed, and you get a feel for how the guy is going to play when the lights are shining bright and when they're playing for keeps and guys are trying to take your head off. So great piece by Barrows on Cody Schrader. You can almost bank that Cody Schrader is going to show up this summer and produce. Now, Guerendo might be a size speed freak. Schrader might be better than Guerendo, despite the fact Guerendo went in the 4th round and Schrader didn't get drafted at all. But I can't wait to watch Cody Schrader. I think he was one of the more underrated backs in the draft. As I said, I really, really loved Blake Corum. He went to the Rams, I think, in the 3rd round. But if you watch Cody Schrader, there is a lot of Blake Corum's game in Cody Schrader. They're both 5'8", 210, 5'8", 215. There's guys that run faster, but these guys run fast they're field fast. They're tackle breakers. You can feel the will of Blake Corum. You can feel the will of Cody Schrader. And the kid's been doubted a ton throughout his career, but you know what? Every single time he's been doubted, he's risen to the occasion and found a way to succeed. So check him out. I think he wears 38. You'll see him in summer camp in Santa Clara if you go out and watch practice. And, of course, you'll catch him in the preseason. Remember that name, Cody Schrader, University of Missouri. He is probably the latest undrafted or late round running back, in this case undrafted, that Bobby T and Kyle Shanahan have unearthed. They got a great eye for these late round backs, and Schrader, I think, is not going to disappoint. All right, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. The video brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Check them out. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove. Call Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264. And thanks to all you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.